Hi, book club members. I'm Jen.
And I'm Carrie.
And this is Warhammer 40k Book Club, where we read from a crag. This is episode number 129, and our book is Lelith Hesperax, the Queen of Knives by Mike Brooke. It tells the story of Lelith. We posted several questions on our website, WH40kbookclub.com, and we encourage participation in our conversations via Twitter, YouTube, our site, or Encrypted Vox channel. Spoiler alert, if you haven't yet read this book, definitely check it out before listening to this episode, as we'll be discussing the book from start to finish in great detail. With that, let's dive in. Given some of our pre-work conversations that we've had about this book, we're going to spice things up a little. And I'm going to start by asking, why do neither of us find the Drukhari in any way compelling?
Because honestly, I find their motivations very boring.
I had to do a lot of soul searching for this because in a world, in the Warhammer 40k universe, in a world of unique, bold, exciting factions who are all doing things, the Drukhari are stagnant. They're a stagnant race. When we think of the framework that Tolkien created for all elves, right, which is the idea of the race being in decline, the Drukhari, they're not even in decline. Like, they declined to a spot, and then they were like, we're good. We're just going to hang out here. We're just going to hang out here and just do what we do. Like, the raid in this book. You show up, you raid, you cause some damage, you kill some people, and then you get out before the actual fight comes, and you're like, victory. Like, you gained nothing, really.
It's like, just, it's gang warfare, right? Come in,
right?
Shoot some shit up, and leave before the cops get there, right?
Before an actual fight shows up. That's the part that I love, when they're just like, oh, we got to get out of here before the Avatar of Cain shows up. Why? Because you might actually have to do something, and your whole thing is to stave off she who thirsts. And I'm not saying that other people can't find this super compelling. I understand why some people might really totally dig the Drukhari, but for me, it just, like, the orcs, mindless fungi who exist for nothing but a good fight, seem more progressive in the terms of, like, trying to go towards a goal, like having a purpose for their existence rather than just existing on they're more compelling than the evil space elves.
Well, the evil space elves, they're just there just to try to survive, right? So then we get into these, the political games, like, and honestly, so I'm going to do another Dragon Age reference here. So, we can go to, Inquisition, where you really get to learn about Orlais and the game. I find the game in Orlais boring. And I found, like, even when I was reading the Dragon Age books, I was all about the game. It's boring. Like, the book wasn't boring, but it's like the things you guys do is boring. And it's just because I feel like you guys are doing this because you literally have nothing interesting going on in your lives. So you have to do this game, and it's boring. That's how I feel about the Drukhari. They literally have nothing interesting going on in their lives. So they're boring. We're gonna go on. We have to make our own interesting things. So we have to go, do a raid. But like you said, the cops are coming. We gotta go. Everybody split. We're gonna have these gladiatorial games because we're bored.
We're bored. They are the absolute pinnacle of bored aristocracy. Like, that's what they are, and it just. I'm with you. It's not compelling. It reminds me when she starts going into, like, the whole politics of it and how Asdrubal Vecht and all of the cults work together, and just, anyways.
I found that just a little interesting learning about the politics, like a little bit. I was like, okay, so I kind of see how this works. So this is a lot like Orlais, and I no longer care. So, like, I found it interesting. It's like, okay, now I have this negative information, but it's not making me like you guys anymore.
Right. And I think that we're going to talk more about that in a second, but I think you're absolutely right that it just, I don't know, they seem boring to me. Like, their whole existence, they're happy in Camorra. Nobody wants to upset the apple cart, except apparently the Harlequins, which we'll talk more about later.
Harlequins are also boring.
You know what? If I had a pick of the three, I'm lumping all of the good Eldari into one faction here, right? Because there's really three factions of Eldari. There's evil, good, and mischievous. Um, Good, evil, mischievous. Um, the Harlequins, uh, they're probably the most compelling because at least they're trying to do something. Like they're
Are
not.
they?
The Harlequins feel like they exist outside of this. We just don't want she who thirsts to find us. Like they feel like they're at least trying to do something, stupid or not, good or bad.
Oh, maybe. I guess I just don't
Right?
care. It's so, but I think that's another elf thing that's played out. Another elf trope. Like I've seen it in some video games. I think the most recent one I saw was in, oh my God, what was that game? Crap. Something
I don't think
Reckoning.
I played that one.
My God, it was the studio that went under. That's not helping. But the guy who owned it was the baseball
Ooh,
player.
yes, yes.
Kingdoms of
Oh, it was a
Amalur.
Morpeg.
Kingdoms
Yes,
of
Kingdom of
Amalur
Amalur.
Reckoning.
Yep.
So there's all these different paths you can take in the game, and I kind of was going on the fairy path just because it was kind of interesting. Just to find out at the end, you're acting out an entire play and trying to, now you have this role in here and you're going to act it out. So a lot like what the Harlequins do. And I got to that, I was like, I don't like this trope. I find it boring. It's played out so many times. I know it's an actual thing in lore. It's a real thing. Honor the classics, blah, blah, blah. It just doesn't interest me. And so the Harlequins show up and I'm just like, oh God, here we go again. We're gonna basically make everybody be in this kabuki theater. That's literally what they
Right.
do.
It is glorified kabuki, if we're being totally honest.
Yeah.
So okay. You said something that which makes me feel obligated to, for my next question, I said, were there any parts that stood out or were interesting? I actually did. That was one of the things that was most interesting to me when the Harlequins first show up and Lelith is kind of reacting to them. And she's like, yeah, even the Drukhari kind of enjoy a good Harlequin show. Right? Now, I did like her reaction to that story in particular, where she's like, yeah, we like this story. The Drukhari actually really like this story, but for a different reason than what we're supposed to, because like we think it's kind of, like imagine being in love with something. Um, like I thought it was interesting that even the Drukhari tolerate the Harlequins. Like, and obviously I understand like the whole nobody wants to piss off the laughing god, right? But I liked the idea that yeah, even we enjoy a good show every now and then. Like, oh, the space theater kids. They appeal to everyone. Or parts that stood out or that were interesting to you. I know you kind of touched on one earlier.
Well, I mean, I guess kind of the fact that Yvraine was actually able, I know she's, Rabute Gelliman's, big titty Eldar girlfriend, but she apparently is able to remove the thirst, or at least
The
I guess
soul thirst.
like at least like give the aura, like if you stay around her, you don't have the thirst. But I don't know, it's kind of one of those things. It's like, does she really get rid of it, or does she just put her through detox, right? And then she went back to the cracked in. Suddenly she's like, oh wait, I have this again. I need this again. She basically fell off the wagon.
Right. I actually, okay, so I will agree with you on that. I did find that interesting because I liked how now Lelith, obviously being Drukhari, takes it to a negative end, right? Where she's like, that's the leash. That's the leash. She keeps you there. And I did kind of like when she was talking about like all the different versions of the Anari, and she's like, okay, of the Eldari, when she's like, well, like these guys can't go back to their craft world, and these guys get separated from like the world tree, and these guys have this, and they have no other options. I can always go home to Kimura. And I'm like, that's a hell of a way to look at things. Like, I mean, she got me out of the gutter, but I can go right back to it, which, yeah, to be fair, you did. And look how that turned out for you, darling.
I honestly kind of laughed when she was like that. She's like, oh, that's the leash. You're on a leash back in Kimura.
Yeah, like I feel bad. Like, it's hard to feel bad for Lelith Hesperax, but, like, I have a little bit of empathy for her there when she's like, oh, okay, so do I hang on Asdrubale Vekt's leash, or do I hang on Yvraine's? Are they really that different. Now, Rain does kind of give her a little bit more of an illusion of freedom, but that whole you don't feel the soul thirst, which I did find at least interesting. Like, oh, okay. So it's not something that's like a permanent feature to you.
Right.
Just because you live in Camorra.
Oh, I actually did find something else interesting. Like, I actually laughed out loud. And it's when Lelith is calling for some slaves to help fix her hair. And talk about getting the hooks out. She's like, a couple of slaves lost some fingers. That made me laugh.
Yeah, it's very Lelith. Very her, very Camorra, very Drukhari.
I mean, I don't know how they don't cut her back or anything, but sure. It's cool.
That's because you're not supposed to think about that kind of stuff. You're really not. She's Lelith Hesperax. I don't know. Just go with it. There's a lot about those little details that, yeah. Anyways, brief thing that I need to say that stood out to me that I really liked was whoever does the narration. I can't remember her name now. She had a very fancy formal name. Whoever did the narration, I listened to the audiobook of it, and awesome. I loved her narration. Her narration, demure, mindful. Loved it. Great. She should do more. Her voice work was terrible. Absolutely terrible. Lelith was fine. Lelith sounded great. She sounded awesome. One thing I will say about the audio books, especially when you're listening to a short book like this, repetition of phrases was very noticeable.
Yeah, because I didn't even notice it in this one. Not like, the woman who killed her husband.
Oh, man. If they mentioned one more time that she was Lelith Hesperax, and that something she did not grow to be the premier witch cult of Camorra. One more time, I was like, I get it. It was bad. That was a little frustrating to me. Throughout this book, now that we have spent several hundred pages with Lelith, did we learn anything really meaningful about her? Do we like her? What do you think about her?
No and no. I don't feel like I learned anything. She didn't even have she had a chance for growth and then stayed plateaued. Now, is some of that because she's got plot armor and, she's a named character, so therefore there's really not much she can do? Kind of like our favorite Charlie Brown kicking the football, Ahriman. Can he ever make his goals? No. Because, and it's the same with her. We can't have her stay with Yvraine because, that makes Camorra less interesting. So let's have a little bit.
Although she says at the end she's going back. So I'm like, so you're going to end the book in the same spot that you started in.
Because there's no change. There's no growth.
I have to agree with you on that. And I think that was one of the reasons I struggled so much with this book was that I kept waiting for something. And I think, and this is probably unfair, but I compared this book to the Luther book, where we get to learn a little bit more about how Luther is thinking, a little bit more about how he operates, right? A little bit more about him. The Cypher book, we get to learn a little bit more about how Cypher thinks. We get to learn maybe, something that happened in his recent history, right? He could have been just taking us along for a lark. That was fine too. The Helbrecht book was kind of like this, where we don't really he doesn't really have any meaningful information. If you're going to do a book like this where you name it after a character, I want to know more about the character. I want to see a pivotal moment in the character's life. I want to know more about what makes them tick. And you know what? Look, maybe we do get to see this. Maybe we do, and I just didn't like what I saw. I don't like that her ego is tremendously fragile, which we did. Shit. Now I'm going to have to give this a point in its favor because we kind of got to see that in Silent Hunters, right? When she gazes into the orb and it shows her.
All right. So, and I was thinking
and she's like, no.
I was like, you know what? We had better character development of her in that book than we did here.
I can't disagree with that assessment.
And she was only there for a couple of chapters in the other book.
Yeah, but we get to see, we basically get to see what this whole book shows us is that her ego is tremendously fragile. She does not like the idea of being the not cool girl. Like she really liked being the it girl.
She
right?
really liked, being the most popular kid in the school cafeteria.
Exactly. She liked that. And that was crucial to her identity. So when she thinks that's threatened, she goes back. And then now we have to have this whole rigmarole. But really, that to me is not super compelling.
No, me
I
neither.
have a fragile ego and I have to go soothe it. That's real neato, my dear. I guess I
have to
wanted
go back and show
more about
everyone
her.
I'm still cool.
But like in the most convoluted way possible. Like I had to go show everybody I'm still cool. So okay, but here's the thing. Here's the thing that's
By
really
playing all these games and dancing to Vect's tune, but I am not.
exactly
I'm not
exactly.
with Vect. Like, he can't control me. Darling, he's been doing this entire time.
Exactly that. The one thing that was a little bit interesting in this book, and I don't know how I feel about this, is that so she's exceptionally arrogant. She loves being the it girl. She loves being the premier witch cult in all of Camorra. That's going to be my new she killed her husband, by the way, just so everybody's clear on that one. But she enjoys that. But then it's not until she goes into the pleasure palace that all of a sudden she's like, oh my God, people would worship me? Are you serious? Like, are you for real? Are you for real right now? Like when she recognizes that and she's like, oh, wait, I could be a power player with your ego. That never occurred to you before? Like it took you to this point to be like, wait a sec. People are like really into me. Like Regina George is very disappointed in you right now.
Like, so I rolled my eyes at the raid because that was such a, like, I'll show you guys I'm cool. I'm having a party, right? And then I was like, okay, whatever. And then she's just like, orgy. Okay. All right. Now we're in now we're in an 80s movie.
Are we agreed for a hot second here that the raid, I didn't find it compelling. It didn't really service the plot all that much. Like she almost gets assassinated. She loses that one chick. Then she has to it felt, I was like, oh, okay. Well, that was a nice little jaunty waste of time. Like, again, it does show, no, and it shows what we already know, right?
They're
Drukhari,
hedonists.
as we were saying. Yeah, they're hedonists.
I knew that.
I knew this.
I didn't need the raid. I didn't need a raid and an orgy to let me know, by the way, they're hedonists. I got that. I got that memo. Like, I think we all know that about the Drukhari. At least you figured that out early on.
Yeah, like you pretty much figured that out. Here's the thing though. The dynamic between Lelith and Morgana. I want everyone to know that by like the end of the book, when they were having the battle right in front of Vect, at one point I paused the audiobook and was like, and excuse my language, I paused the audiobook and was like, just fuck already.
Seriously. Get a room, you two.
Seriously. Like we've already figured out there's some sort of undercurrent between y'all. And like, especially the way she says it at the end, right? When she's like, you fascinate me. And this time she meant it, right? I'm like, okay. So now I understand that the Drukhari they're not comfortable with emotion. So the idea of like, I'm in love with you would probably be pretty anathema to the Drukhari, right? You wouldn't want to show that type of vulnerability and weakness. I get it. But we also get what's going on here. So like, you have this giant orgy. Is Morgana coming to kill you because she's angry she wasn't invited? I don't know. Maybe. Again, just fuck already.
You know, when they announced that they had to have this fight, I was like, oh God, here we go. They're gonna.
Of course they do. We knew, but here's the thing: we knew that was happening from the first couple.
Exactly. But I knew at that point that they were going to confess to one another that they didn't want to kill one another, and they just wanted to be best friends and probably be best friends with benefits, most likely, and just like, okay, fine. This is boring.
Seriously. Just fuck and braid each other's hair, for God's sake. Right. Oh my goodness.
Mind the hooks.
Mind the hooks. Like it's like you take out the friendship portion of it if your slaves do it, but maybe, I don't know. I don't know how they party in Camorra. Actually, I take that back. I do, because we read a book about it. And And it's not that I'm not like, oh, I was so offended by the orgy scene.
No, I wasn't offended. It's just boring.
It was boring. Again, like this comes back to the Drukhari. They're just very boring. They're just a very boring race to me.
Hedonists.
I'm going to say something.
Okay.
I would rather read a Tau book than a Drukhari book. I know. For those of our listeners, Carrie is clutching her pearls.
I did not expect that.
Nobody expects the Tau Inquisition. I came to that realization that I was like, well, shit. At least the Tau are building towards something.
Okay,
like at least they're
that is
doing
true.
something with their lives.
They do have a goal.
They have like plans, and at least their society, like that whole caste system thing that they have going on, that's at least more compelling than the haves and have-nots and the murderers. Like, ugh. The raid and the orgy scene, it just felt, and look, maybe people were super into that, and maybe like, I am going to say a phrase, and this might come off as very sexist, but maybe I'm just not the target demo for that. Maybe there were people who were reading that of the male persuasion or otherwise who were like, oh, hell yes, finally.
Maybe.
That was not me. I was like, I am not the target demo for this particular scene of this book. But the dynamic between Lelith and Morgana, like we pretty much figure it out from their first interaction.
Right.
These two clearly have some sort of begrudging respect for one another. They clearly have more than oh yeah, we grew up together and we kill a bunch of people. Like, there's something more there. To quote Stephen King's wife, did you have to bore the hell out of us with it?
Well, I mean, you have... I think you're 100% right. We're definitely not the target demographic for this. And that this type of faction doesn't appeal to us. Right. But, I'm honestly thinking that I don't think any of the Eldar factions appeal to me. Because to be perfectly honest, I kind of find your Vrain boring too. Yeah, she's trotting toward trying to resurrect the dead god or whatever, to stave off. I mean, at least I guess she's doing something. But honestly, I find most stories with elves boring. And because I think most, thanks to Tolkien, the elves... they're always a certain way. They're in decline. They live forever, and they're very arrogant about it. So I just kind of find them very stale most of the time.
I would actually agree with that because, like the Asuryani, I don't find them all that compelling. The Exodites, I don't find them all that compelling. I feel like so you have the Drukhari who basically fell into squalor. And are just kind of wallowing there, right? They're just like, well, this is the way that we're doing it, right? And they are not really trying to grow. They're not really trying to do anything.
No, because they're just trying to hold on to what they have.
They are the grasshoppers from A Bug's Life. They come, they eat, they leave. Like, that's pretty much what they do, right?
Yeah, that's good.
And before somebody comes in very cleverly and says, that's a Tyranids, it's been a really long day, so just let me have this one, okay? The Asuryani and the Exodites, kind of same. Like, they're like, okay, we have found our Zen, and this staves off She Who Thirsts because we're totally Zen. And that's pretty much all we really do. I understand that there are other books, like they try to do some things and make some plays and stuff, but they're really just like, just leave us alone. Just leave us alone to our meditation, right? So they're not all that interesting. The Inari, okay, they run into the same problem that we've talked about with plot armor before, is like now that we really, I will admit, going into this, I knew very little about the Inari. So like when she did explain they're going to bring back the God of the Dead, and the God of the Dead will kill She Who Thirsts, but yeah, they also really can't do that because of this one weapon. I was like, of course they can't, because plot armor. You can't kill Slaanesh.
Right, you can't kill Slaanesh. That would totally upend everything in the whole Warhammer 40k universe. So
can't put that genie back in the bottle, guys.
And I guess honestly, personally for me, the whole idea of like these fate weavers, I've never liked that trope, that faction or whatever. And that's one reason why I think I've never really liked the elves, you know, and the Eldar, especially because, you know, they had, you know, them with their stupid cabal and the Horus Heresy mucking things up because they're trying to align things the way that they think that it should be aligned. I get so tired of like the prognosticators and the fate weavers, and that's why I don't like the Harlequins. And for trying to make this be this certain story, I mean, I guess at least the Harlequins are trying to make it entertaining with, you know, their interactive kabuki theater. But at the same time, that's what it is now. It is now forced kabuki theater.
Yes, forever.
That's right. This is the whole idea of like everything that we are doing, it's going to affect this, so we can get this aligned and this and this and this and this and this. You know. And some of it becomes a Deus Ex Machina for stuff, which also becomes boring. Like, and even though I really liked that White Scars book, where we did have a literal Deus Ex Machina with the Eldari, like, oh, we're going to teach you how to fix this with the Tyranids, and y'all can live. Great. That was interesting, but at the same time, I was like, I know a Deus Ex Machina when I see it. And sometimes there's a time and a place for it. This one actually had it, but it doesn't mean that's not a tired. Especially if, like, I feel like I'm bragging here, but when you've read like a lot of ancient Greek philosophy and plays, it's really old. Because a lot of the Greek plays, they literally did not know how to end the story. So they had a Deus Ex Machina to end the story. And so that's how I always feel like, we don't know how to write this. A wizard did it. Ba-doom. And that
exactly.
But that's just me personally. It's just I'm not saying where people start saying that we're like, oh, we're bagging on Eldari fans. No, like seriously, you do you. This just was not my cup of Darjeeling.
Yeah, I would again, I understand if people are into this, I totally get it. I like it, but I don't like the Farseer thing either. And here's the thing with a lot of the Farseer stuff is that it is only quoting Kung Fu Panda here, right? Like, one often meets their path on the road to avoid it. How many times have we seen like this whole concept of, oh, okay, well, you know, our Farseers have seen this, and so now we're going to do the, oh, damn, that actually made
that's
this
another
happen.
Trope, right?
That's a trope that I absolutely hate.
The self-fulfilling prophecy, as we're trying to
self-fulfilling prophecy.
As we're trying to avoid the prophecy.
I just can't stand it. And so you have all of that, and then additionally you have the you have this. I don't like any of that, and I don't like the idea of like, it comes into the same reason that I don't really love Tzeentch, right? All went according to plan.
Right.
Everything is a Xanatos gambit. Everything. And that's one thing that I also don't like about the Eldari, or the Harlequins in particular, is that literally everything is according to plan. As we saw at the end of this book, right? Nothing really happens. But the Harlequins are so happy because, well, you know, things are a little shaken up there. And yeah, are they going to be shaken up? Like,
I think the one time that things did not go to the Harlequins' plans was in a Josh Reynolds book.
Yeah, exactly that.
When Fabius Bile was like, you can have them, take them. And Trajan's like, cool. Like, I will take them. And the Harlequins be like, whoa. We did not see this coming. No.
Like, I'm sorry, what?
You're interrupting the play.
Let me ask this. So going to that point, like, does Lelith win in the end? What was the point of Vect's game? Like, is this an actual like victory for her or not?
I think Vectus wanted to see what was going to happen, to be perfectly honest.
I think you're right. Honestly, I think you are 100% right.
The most bored out of everybody.
Oh my God.
So
seriously.
His favorite plaything was gone, so he decided to stir up some shit.
Yeah. Like, let me see if I can yank on her chain and have her come back. And guess what?
It worked.
She did. And yeah, like, she can sit there and be like, oh,
I don't dance to his tune. Yeah, you kind of do.
You really did, darling. Like, I hate to break it to you, but you totally, totally did. And there's just I don't understand. Like, I look at that and I don't understand how we got here. I don't understand how you think that this was any type of victory. And the thing about it is with Asdrubal Vecht is that, oh, like with the Harlequin at the end being like, oh, and now the balances are tipped. Like things are going to be a little spiced up. No, they're not. Because plot armor, like canonically, there is, I don't think, and actually, I don't know. I feel like I don't think there's a world in which Asdrubal Vecht like gets toppled over, right? And Lelith Hesperax rises to be the queen, or somebody else does. I mean, if they do, and like, are things going to change? Are the Drukhari going to be like, all right, look, the whole sex, drugs, and murder thing is just not working for us right now. Like, we got to find a new path. Probably not.
Right.
It just, I guess, it's nice, brief but pointless. Like, I guess, which is so harsh to say.
Oh man, that's like my favorite quote from that Ghostbusters movie.
That's wonderful. Brief but pointless. Yeah, I guess I just don't understand what the point was. Other than for Vecht, it was absolutely a flex and a power move from Vecht. And I don't know, like, I got the impression that we were supposed to feel like Lelith kind of won. But did she?
As much as she could have, I guess.
I guess, but
she
even
won
then,
in that
like,
she didn't have to kill Morgana and she didn't die. There we go. There is a victory in Kimura for you.
That's true. And I guess you could argue that it kind of weakens Vecht's position because now he has to be like, okay, sure, do whatever you want. But I think everybody who really knows Kimura politics, like, you could absolutely be like, yeah, but he probably planned that all along. Like, I don't know. Again, I asked the question.
He did that to stir it up because however it went was going to benefit him in the long run. He didn't care. He didn't care about either one of them.
No, he doesn't care about either of them. I did like that revelation that Morgana apparently missed, where because Lelith lives in the Dark City, but apparently Morgana doesn't. Which is just like, you understand that this is not a victory for you, right? I do feel that. So one of the things that, and maybe this is just my misunderstanding, I always thought that I had heard that Lelith Hesperax, like I thought like the lore implied that she not only was the premier succubus of the premier witch cult in all of Kimura, that she and Vecht also kind of had a thing going on. I actually feel like this book kind of was like, nope, ain't nothing there.
Yeah, I got that impression too. Many times.
Yeah, it actually felt more like and by the way, like, yes, he uses me because I am definitely, I keep the masses happy, as it were. And we have a very good, like, we have that relationship where everybody loves me. I'm super awesome. I get to do whatever I want. And then I'm good for him. But I did not get, it almost felt like there was very much pointedly, this is a working relationship entirely.
Yeah, but it's a Drukhari. The working relationship could have entailed that at one point in time when they were drawing the initial contract up. Let's be real.
That's fair. That's entirely fair.
It doesn't mean that they're lovers.
Right. Fair enough. I didn't pick up that vibe at all. And I was like, okay, I guess. Again, it's the Drukhari. Who knows? I don't think I saw the real point of it other than it was a power play on his move and she fell to it. So I have a hard time saying she won in this one. He yanked the chain. She came running. Now what the Harlequins are getting out of this. Well,
I mean, we may never know.
That's entirely possible too.
We may never see that guy ever again.
God willing. Sorry, what?
Well, I mean, we already said we didn't really want to read another Drukhari book again, but at least the book design's pretty.
Oh, yes. I mean, and look, the audio version, I really enjoyed her narration. Her voice work was not good. Really enjoyed the narration. It was a quick, breezy read. It didn't overstay its welcome. I will give it, well, actually, it kind of did. I think this could have been a short story. The raid, I didn't understand the point of the raid.
She had to throw a party to get people to like her again.
But what did it gain her?
It's a classic, 80s movie twist. Like, I'm not popular. Oh, I'll just throw a party. That always gets everybody. Well, because then you had to have the assassin. It's just to figure out who the assassin is. And then, she makes a comment to her head succubus that maybe it was Morgana. And then she goes to her orgy fest. And then that person might have decided to go attack Morgana. Like she thought she was doing her a favor. So it just kind of set up all these things in a really convoluted way. But then again, it's the Drukhari. So why wouldn't it be convoluted?
Yeah. To be fair,
yeah, but at least it was short.
That's probably the biggest thing that I can give for this. It was short. It was a little bit of a difficult read for me, and it was just because, again, I just don't dig the Drukhari. I don't really dig the Drukhari. I don't really like. Yeah. I don't dig them.
No.
But I don't know. Maybe I'm not supposed to. Honestly, maybe I'm not supposed to.
Well, from what I was gathering, from what I saw, like even in our own Discord, which everyone should join, by the way, and on Twitter and everything, a lot of people love this book. So when I got to the end and I was like, God, I hated this whole thing. It's like, well, once again, I'm on the outside on this, but it just makes me think that, we as not Drukhari fans are just not a target audience for this.
That could definitely be. I do think that to enjoy this book, you have to be a hardcore Drukhari fan,
I mean,
or at least a Lelith Hesperax fan.
But a lot of these people, they also, think that Space Marines are completely boring. So, and I love the Space Marines.
Fair. Definitely a fair comment on that. And look, we've read some boring books in that too.
Oh God, yes.
Oh my God, yes. Speaking of our next book that we're going to be reading.
Oh, come on.
No,
He's got another football to kick.
I will not be coming on.
He's got another football to kick.
He has another rake to step on.
Yeah. I say Charlie Brown, you say Sideshow Bob. That just shows our age difference.
I loved Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown, bless his heart, had hope. Sideshow Bob had just dumb. And
okay,
this is
Ahriman always has hope.
I would rather read a Tau book. Maybe this page. You know what though? Shut the fuck up. Here's my Charlie Brown moment, because I'm gonna say this. I am gonna say it in my Charlie Brown moment.
Look at this art.
Maybe this will be the book that I like.
Even I don't have that kind of hope.
Maybe if he dies. They're like, hey, guess what? We legit killed Ahriman. I'll be like, oh my God, that's actually very compelling.
It says undying. He can't die. Again, he has plot armor. And like that plot armor, we know he's never going to find the Black Library. He's never going to fix the rubric
Marines. Yes. Literally never will.
So, when the trilogy ended the way that it did, I was like, well, okay. I thought it ended okay, mainly because the mathematician was really, really cool. Or the mathemagician. Because I thought at the end of the third book, it was pretty much established what we just said. He's never going to fix the Rubrique. He is never going to reach the Black Library. He is always going to be stagnant. And then they announced a fourth book. And it was like the same verse just as the first. Second verse, same as the first.
A little bit faster and a lot worse, except in this case, they're a little bit longer.
And then we got a fifth book. I'm just like, okay, well, we'll see, I guess. Oh, come on.
I don't know. I'm being unfair. I recognize that I'm being unfair.
Yeah, and to be fair, I did say I would read this by myself. And you're like, no, we'll read it for the book club. So I didn't force you to do this.
Okay. I read all of the goddamn Twilight books because at that point I was committed and I had to know how that ended. I read all of the Rhapsody books because at that point I'm committed. I have to know how it ends. I read all of the Kushiel's Dart series because at that point I was committed. I had to know how it ended.
But did you finish the Wheel of Time series?
No, God, fuck no. I hate myself. My husband did, though. He did. And that was the other reason that I didn't have to. Because I could just sit there and he would be like, all right, are you ready for this shit? And I'd be like, hit me. And I would just sit there and listen to it. It was the reason that I quit Game of Thrones after I think it was season 3 or 4. I did watch the last season because at this point we have to see how they're going to wrap this crap up. Because Martin's never going to. But he's filled me in on all of those seasons. I didn't have to watch it because he was watching it and he would come to bed and just be like, oh, this is so bad. And faith. Additionally, as we have complained about a few times, the Black Library publishing schedule is somewhat erratic, let's say. So this is a new book. This is a new book that was published, that came out, and it was new. And I do know that we have Thousand Sun fans, and by God, I am going to give it the old college try. And I did make you read the Night Lord series, so.
That's okay. I'm getting my revenge with the Dark Angels. So it all washes out in the end.
And eventually we will also read Double Eagle, and then you will also get to have a little bit more of my revenge. No, it's fair. It's tit for tat. Like traitor. Let's do this. I really don't like Ahriman. And I feel
so. Oh
I
my
feel
gosh,
so bad.
So it's like I do like Ahriman, but oh my God, not the way John French writes him. I loved Ahriman in the first book, and that's because that showed Ahriman being a badass. To be totally honest. Like when he's hiding on the ship and then realizes he can't hide anymore. He's like, that's it, snaps his fingers and people are just exploding. Like, see? And like, I love the way that Graham McNeil wrote him in the Horus Heresy. I thought it was great. Even Rachel Harrison, when she had him in that Inquisitor book that we didn't like.
Yeah.
I thought he was a great, villain foil in that. It's like, see, like he can be written well. I don't know.
That's entirely fair. I think
honestly, you know what I
some
think
authors
I
just no.
I think no, I don't even think it's that. I think Ahriman, honestly, is like Lelith. They're great villains, great supporting characters. They don't have a good story on their own to tell. Why?
You know what? That could be.
Because they're stagnant. They
are stagnant
They
characters.
can't do anything. They can't get better. They can't improve because of where they are. So I think, Ahriman showing up and being like, ha, I twisted this all up so I could get this and then I failed. Dang it. That's interesting. A whole story of him trying to get a plot that's never going to work out. Like it's hard.
You know what? I hate that you're totally right on all of this. It does make it very, very difficult to find them compelling because you end up with it makes it hard to find those characters compelling because there's really only so much you can do with them. And I think we saw with Fabulous Bill, we saw what happens when an author tries to really get in there and put their own take on it. And
yes, what happened? He gets fired and...
Well, I meant more of like, all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute.
Right.
This isn't Fabulous Bill. Like, Ahriman, I don't love what John French is doing with him, but he's at least semi-adjacent to what we've seen with other things. It's not as radical of the paterfamilias, like, version of Bill we had where suddenly he's just the kindly creator who's just using a little bit of chaos to do some of his kindly creations.
He's the misunderstood mad scientist.
Exactly. Like trying to give him not even a lump of sugar, like basically trying to make him the hooker with the heart of gold that he isn't. And it comes off as just kind of weird. And especially with a character like that, right? I do agree with you. I think I've seen Ahriman done a lot better. I don't love John French. John French, I've decided is just not an author for me in general. I don't like his writing style, which is fine. Not everybody
And
is
I
for
will
everything,
argue
though.
that he's a great short story writer.
Yeah, like we've seen some of the
Yeah.
short stories where it's like, oh no, that's actually not bad. Like that's pretty good. But this piece of it is not very good. Yeah, I don't love this portion. I don't love the side of him that we get to see. And I just don't really care about his story because I feel like, again, this goes back to what I was saying about with Lelith. Like, at least with, oh God, now I'm talking in circles because now I'm thinking of like a better argument here. So, like, with Bill, I will give him credit. At least he made stuff happen.
Right.
Bill was doing stuff.
He was doing stuff.
He was doing stuff and things. Horrible stuff. The Flesh Mountain that he made in Kimura was pretty jacked up. Cloning Primarchs, yeah, that wasn't super great either. Like, maybe let's dial it down a notch. But at least he was doing stuff. Ahriman, to your point, is Charlie Brown. Like, could you imagine if the Charlie Brown Christmas special or the Charlie Brown, it's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown or whatever else, was literally just him kicking the football?
Kind of, yeah. I mean,
that was a character beat in a larger story.
right.
This is the whole story.
Exactly why I think Ahriman and Lelith don't work as their own stories. They're better supporting cast, whether as a villain or as a supporting character.
I think you're right. I do hate to say that, but I think you're absolutely right about that. I think he is better. I understand the want to be like, let's deep dive into these characters, shall we? Let us not. Let
The
us
first
not.
trilogy
You know what
was fine.
Disagree. But no, I understand what you're saying. Like, they
Yeah.
did not need, like, you made a trilogy. Cool. Great. Grand. We did not need to have a second trilogy. I was actually shocked that they made a fourth book. And now that a fifth book is coming out, I'm like, but why? And then I got really sad because I was like, but then there'll be a sixth book.
And they'll have to figure out what other word for, eternal they'll come up with. Ahriman immortal?
Do we not already have that?
No, it's eternal. The fourth book's eternal. This one's undying. So, like, Ahriman immortal.
Annoyingly unkillable.
Yeah, Ahriman unkillable. Ahriman the plot armor.
Ahriman, are you still buying this? Are you still buying this, Amon?
As long as we're buying it, the answer is yes.
Yes, we are. Yeah, again, at this point, I just have to see where it goes. Like, how's it gonna mess up this time?
Well, at least this time he doesn't have any friends, from what I was reading. It's like he killed them all. He spent them all,
friends
or
are
just
dead.
or pissed them all off.
I do really like that you use that as a selling point. He's friends now. So we're just stuck with him? Anyways.
Well, but my point is that he won't have these people to manipulate around him so that when this thing happens, he's just like, I knew you were going to do this because I'd set it up to be this way.
Fair.
He only has himself.
The good news is that with the Black Library publishing schedule the way it has been, we're gonna get through we got through Lelith Hesperax, we're gonna get through Ahriman Undying, and then we have a whole bunch of good, seeming promisingly good looking stuff on the horizon. So let's dive into Ahriman next time, and by God, we're gonna give it our all.
We're going to give it another good old college try, just like Charlie Brown with that football.
Exactly that. Do you want to take us out, Karen?
I think I will before you start twitching a little bit more for everyone on the audio listening to us. She developed a sudden, very particular eye twitch. Yep, there it goes again. Might need to get a doctor to look at that. Just saying.
It's called Ahriman.
Oh, that's fair. But you've listened to the Warhammer 40k Book Club episode regarding Lelith Hesperax, Queen of Knives by Mike Brooks. Be sure to join us next time for Ahriman the Undying. Sorry, just not The Undying. Ahriman Undying by John French. We are an unofficial book club and not affiliated with the Black Library or any of its affiliates. You can find both the vidcast and podcast on our website, WH40kbookclub.com. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, give a review, and all those things to the vidcast on YouTube or the podcast on anywhere you get podcasts. And come join our Discord. I said this earlier. We have fun discussions in there, and people, they'll talk about what books they're excited about or how they felt about this book, and then they share what they're painting. It's really kind of awesome. Our site also has articles about our adventures in reading other Warhammer 40k books and short stories outside of the book club books, so please stay well and read for McCrag. So it's kind of cool that I actually got this sticker in the mail. Kind of nice and appropriate for Ahriman.
Oh, shoot. And now I can't even remember. I was even going to say on this podcast, I cannot remember now. I have to like grab up Etsy really quickly here. It's Glitter Blood Designs, I think is what it is. She has amazing stickers and she has really awesome stuff, and I highly recommend.
I love it. Little blueberry box.
I have my Adeptus Sororitas ones from her on my water bottle. So I have like the Night Lord sticker. I have the Iron Warriors, and then I have my Sororitas in there, like she's flanked on either side, and I absolutely love it because she is not backing down.
Well, no, and she wouldn't. So
no.
Another thing I'm going to call out is any video gamers out there, if you're going to play Space Marine 2, like you should, replay the first one. It's still really good. If you never played it before, go pick it up on Steam. It plays great on the Steam Deck if you have one. Unfortunately, it's not backwards compatible on the Xbox, and you can only play it on PS3 if your PS3 is still plugged up and running. But it is available if you've never played it before. So great. Just ignore the fact that it's pretty much the Ultramarines trilogy. And just...
Don't ignore that. That's what makes it so good.
No. I mean, just don't be like, oh my God, this is just a repeat of that. Okay. It is, but it's an amazing story, and have some fun with it. It's really, really fun.
That's kind of the idea.
Space Marine 2 is coming out next month. Super excited.
We'll have to do like after we both finish it, we'll have to do like a quick podcast on the story.
Oh, okay. So when we finish it by next year with the way we play video games now.
Okay, let us be very real. There is no way that we let it linger. Like, yeah, seriously. We might even just play it over 2 weeks instead of a book to be like, now we've reviewed the story of it. It was so good. Because I am so excited to see Captain Titus again in action. Yes. Wait, we might actually talk about video gaming in our Discord channel.
I may have to make a whole different channel for gaming, because there's actually a lot of, you know what, that's a good discussion, because there's a lot of Warhammer video games, maybe too many out there, but I'm sure some people have played them. Dawn of War fans, anyone? All right, we're just gonna, this could go on for like another hour at this rate, so good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.